Hey guys, I know most of you will be watching this later because I encourage everyone to. I'm watching it on my TV as we're going. Check out Tim in Dubai. He's been bringing great coverage. So basically, we are, um, recording this for later because Timmy's coverage is amazing and he's just doing a great job over there. He's had some great interviews. He's shown some great watches, and we need to support his channel. This is obviously a non-monetized channel. Let me turn the volume down a little bit on Tim's stream here. But he was just showing some Louis Vuitton stuff, and he's over with the Gerald Gentile. See the Mickey Mouse that Brian would love. Hello, Jonathan, and hello, Thomas. I think you are the audience right now. So somewhere between 11:45 or 10:45 and 11, Harry's going to come on and talk about Heuer and Jack Heuer. So we have that to look forward to. While we're waiting on him and checking out Tim's stream, got a beautiful AP Royal Oak on there. Somebody's wearing. So that's cool. Double Royal Oaks on that guy. Wow, that's the ultimate flex, I guess. And Thomas, can you hear me? I don't know. I'm assuming that you can hear me. But because there's not a big audience, I don't know. I just don't know. But yeah, so please check out Tim's coverage. Support Tim. He does this that is cool. Thanks, Thomas. So, Timmy does his show. That's his job. I do the show on Sundays just to chat with you guys and hang out and talk about some watches and some stuff that's going on here and there. Nothing major. But if you are coming to the stream later, like I hope you're over at Tim's stream. Hey, David H., how are you, sir? Please upvote the stream. I do appreciate it. It does help with the algorithms to get more people involved. This is a non-monetized stream for anybody that doesn't know. There's no super chatting and there's no memberships or anything like that. It's just about talking about watches and hanging out with people. A little bit of watch fellowship, if you will. A little bit of food. We got my breakfast on the screen, like we like to start the day. Yes, and don't forget to go over to Timmy and upvote Timmy too, because that's not easy. What he's doing, he does well, and it's not easy to do. To walk around and talk to those people, and I guess some guy was rude to him yesterday, but that guy's lost because Tim's got a pretty good audience. People want to see what he's up to. The new Longines, David. I love the new Longines. That was one of the things I was going to talk about before Harry came on. So yeah, so breakfast, simple turkey sausage, made some potatoes, just some, and I made some herbed eggs. But interesting that you bring this up because you guys know that I'm a big fan of the Legend Diver, and I own a 42 millimeter Legend Diver. That is a big deal to me. And I had sold it and got it back. So Tim's doing another interview right now. Sorry, caught my eye. But I as much as I love, apparently it was some micro brand that blew Timmy off. Like, great way to make sure nobody hears about your brand, especially in Timmy's community, where there's very big time collectors. And the cool thing about Timmy's community is you have your like hype watch piece people, but you also have your collectors that like new and interesting things. You have your George Varhees and people that PG and people like that like those kind of things. So that's definitely that guy's loss. Huge loss there. Just dumb. But David H, back to your comment about the Longines. So Longines, let me pull it up here. Longines came out with a new size uh, Legend Diver, which we know I love my 42. And I really do love my 42. But there are some changes on this watch that I really like. Let's see if I can pull up. Here's a Dinky article on it, which kind of shows it here. Hold on for 1 second, and I will pull up mine. All right. So, gentleman size Legend Diver. Yes. Oh, man. So, this is mine. We'll show this real quick. And we know we've gone over this, how much I love this watch. Really? Hold on. Hold on. Let's go back to my sloppy room. So there's my 42 millimeter Legend Diver. Love that watch. No, it's true, Evan. It's true. No virtual background for me. But they made some changes to this watch that I really like. And they're pretty, a couple of them are pretty obvious right here in the pictures. So one thing they did, I mean, obviously I'm not crazy about a 39. You know, I like a bigger watch, have a bigger wrist. But that being said, it really oh shit. Let me make myself not so big so maybe we can see the picture, Mark. There you go. So if you look at this new Legend Diver, they went with a beads of rice for the bracelet instead of the mesh like I have. And it's integrated into the case instead of the straight bar design like I have. Yeah, I could take that or leave it. I actually really like the bracelet on mine. But the dial, they did a couple things to the dial, subtle things. First, no date. So when they originally released this watch in 2007, was it? The original when they came back with the Legend Diver, it was a no date version, and the date, you know, it's okay, but I like having that 3 there. I just think it gives them a little more symmetry to the dial. The other thing that they did on this watch that the one thing that I really didn't care for on mine, was never crazy about the second hand. And because it was just a straight piece of steel and it was a little short. So let me show you. Go back, pull up Big Mark again. Let's see if you can see the second hand. There's no pip, there's no loom. It's a hair. I mean, it reaches the second counter, but it's a hair short. If you look at this second dial, it has a loom pip on it, a little arrowed loom pip, which I really like. The other thing it has is let me see if they show it in this article, but they changed the loom on this. Really, I think improved it because the loom is the part of this watch that's really disappointing, if you will. You know, I don't have a picture of it here, but so they did like a Seamaster 300M loom where you have green and blue. So I believe it's your hour hand and your triangle are the blue loom, with the green being the rest of it. So it's easier to pick up. Plus, there's loom on the second hands now, which wasn't there before. which was very disappointing. I'm going to check out another article here, see if they have a picture of the loom because I thought it was pretty striking. The difference, obviously there's also a difference in the movement a little bit. So they showed on the back here. So mine is a 300-meter rated diver. This one is actually certified to be a diver, and it's chronometer certified. So this is an L888 6, I think. Yeah, mine is an L888, and it's not ISO certified or COSC certified. I don't know if you have that in here or not, but look at that dial. Look at that. So it still has that boxed, the dome boxed crystal, sapphire crystal on top. But it just looks so much cleaner without the date, without the 3 o'clock date. Again, no picture. I do like the bracelet. I like the beads are ice. I like the mesh better as a look, but the clasp looks a lot better on this new version, on this new 39. If they were to do this watch in the 42, I'd trade mine in. I just got it. I think the few subtle changes that they made to it were amazing. Nobody wants to show. There's a little picture of the loom. Let's see if I can make it bigger. But you can see that it has the bicolor on it, like on the Seamaster 300M. So your minute hand in this isn't a good picture, but the other picture I saw of the loom, it looked like the triangle were blue, the hour hand, and they loomed the numbers, which weren't loomed before. I just had those tiny little loom squares on the. I mean, there's overall, it's just a really improved watch, David, Evan, whoever's listening. They just really did a nice job with it. I can. That's just see, Evan says, see, I really like that. I'm not normally a fan of a lot of Longines design language. I don't like the 5-star rated GMT, but the Legend Diver is up there with the Ultracron and the Master Collection. Yeah, it's really, and this new one, the few little tiny complaints that I had about mine, although I love mine, they addressed, which I thought was cool. I was wearing was it Friday I wore this? So I rotate the watches. I think Friday I was Gorilla Time. Hey, come back. You can come back and check it out. Hey, Harry is gonna be on later doing he's gonna show some of his vintage Heuers, probably around 11. But again, I encourage everyone, please go watch Tim's stream. And then come back and watch this later if you get the chance, or if you can do both. If you're technologically savvy enough to do that, that's cool. But I've got Tim on in the background myself. I'm watching him as well because he has had. I think he's just done a great job. This might be the best Gonzo he's been doing. Evan G says if they keep it up with polishing these retro reissues, I'd like to see Swatch push Longines up market a bit. I think they could fill the role Omega used to before Omega started. Yeah, I agree. Before they started increasing the prices, their lineup, this, whether you like the 5 stars or not on the Spirit, the Spirit line is amazing, and they keep adding to it, with different size options and chronograph options and the Zulu time option. I mean, they just keep building on a pretty good line. The Ultracron I love. It's high beat. It looks like an old, like the Legend Diver. It looks like a 1960s, 1970s watch. David H says, agree. It's the best coverage he's done at a watch show. Working hard over there. It is. He's really he's really done a good job. What do you guys think of his garb yesterday? I thought that was awesome. Dressing like a local, but it is. He's really done a good job. He's done some great interviews, and he's been informative and his normal funny self, so that you get that combination of things that everybody loves about Tim. It's like been all the good parts of Tim. So I've been trying to catch as much of it as I can. Obviously working and stuff, but just whenever I get a shot. But yeah, like I put on the scroll below. No one's going to hurt my feelings by watching Tim's stream today instead of this show. Watch the show later. You know what I mean? If that's the case, because he's been doing really good stuff. So, hello, Jonathan. We can hear you. Yay, Jonathan Quayle Higgins the third. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show. So yeah, the new Longines Legend Diver, I think, is a winner, and I say that as someone who's a big fan of the regular Longines. What I am not as much of a fan of is that it is a smaller watch, and I believe it's $700 more. I don't know what the difference is in the cost of those movements, but I can't believe it adds up to $700. I think that was, yeah, here. Yeah, Hodinkie's an authorized Longines dealer. Yeah, it's listed for $3,200 on the bracelet. Whereas this watch is $2,500 retail. So I'm not sure price wise it 100% fits, but it is different than the old one. I mean, they made some notable changes. I'm hoping next year that the dial and movement changes are moved to the 42. In which case, I may be selling another Legend Diver and replacing it with a Legend Diver. How many times can a man do this? It's crazy. Also, yeah, the ISO certification, the COSC certification, the improved loom, the lack of a date. I like it. I'm a big fan of this watch. I just think they did a heck of a job. I'm curious if they're going to add some of the colorways, because they in the 36 and the 42 they offer some different colors. And I'm curious if this bracelet, we'll see, already the bracelet is available in blue and black. So on the old model, the bracelet was only available with the black face, which there's a couple of the faces I liked, but I didn't go with because I wanted the mesh. And the mesh on that it's just so good. It's so thick. It's hardy. It feels great on the wrist. And it catches a lot of everybody notices it. And that's the one thing with the beads of rice, is part of the appeal of the Legend Diver is the fact that it gets a lot of attention because of that bracelet, because of the polish. So I'm curious if that's gonna, with the beads of rice, I'd like to see it in person to see what it looks like. But I mean, geez, small complaints. I mean, they really, really went out of their way to improve this. We have, I think, done an amazing job with it, and Evan likes a couple Longines. I've always been a pretty big Longines fan. Not of their entire line, but there's a lot of their watches that I've always liked. But Dr. Bob in the house with his mullet truck. Look at that thing. That's a good looking piece. So hopefully everybody is enjoying Timmy's amazing streams. It's cool because you get to see a lot of watches you don't get to see on the stream. So we talked a lot about the Le Mans Daytona when they released it, and or when they showed it for the first time, and so many of the pictures and stuff. Orko, how are you? Yeah, please, if you guys are here going back and forth, please support Tim. He's doing amazing work over there. But we talked a lot about the the Le Mans, and until the stream, when Timmy really got a good hands-on look at it and got some good pictures of it, I thought it was okay. I thought after seeing it, in his hand and comparing, when he was holding it up with the Panda, and some of the detail shots that he did with his camera, I was really much more impressed with the watch than I originally was. It was, I thought it was crazy good looking, and at first, my first thoughts were, it doesn't look that much different. But when you really see it and you see it next to the other one, there are some discernible differences. And it is kind of a cool looking watch. So I can see it showed me what the buzz and the hype were about it. Is that a Mosier he's looking at now? Those are cool watches. Sorry, like I said, I do have Tim on in my background, so I too am doing both streams. But yeah, so but support Timmy. That's his job. This is just a fun side thing for me. Tim's hands-on segment has changed my mind. Yeah, absolutely, Orko. Yeah, and he's picked up a couple. Like I said, he's picked up watches I've never even thought about before. Lucha Age 4. Hold on, what do we got here? I like it. I like the mullet pictures. I'm a big fan of the mullets. So yeah, he's changed my mind on a couple, and he takes really good on these gonzos. He takes his time when he gets actually with the watches and gives you a pretty good view of them, so you can actually see them, which is cool. We don't get you don't get all that coverage, normally like you normally do in other places. So big fan of what he's been doing, and not easy to do. I get it. Let's see. So Evan G says, "Yeah, I don't like the boring dress watch Longines that look like discount JLC Patek, because I also don't like JLC and Patek versions. But the other stuff that's more unique to Longines is great. Yeah, they've come out with some really cool stuff. Like we mentioned the Ultracron. I think that watch is badass looking, and a great price for a high beat movement watch. Oh, speaking of high beat movement watches, I guess I should. I am wearing the Zenith Defy Skyline with the 1/10 of a second counter. So no, my watch is not broken. It is just really fast. But yeah, his coverage has been good. The there's a few of the brands, and I need to go back into some of these streams, because it's not like I was taking notes as I was watching them, but there was a couple brands I never heard of that I really liked some of their stuff. I'd love to look at more, check some more stuff out. Uh, but he's really done a nice job. And like I said, please check him out. Please support him. He's I know this but I'm not sure how many people supported to get him over there, but yeah, this can't be a cheap trip. And to do this and not just hang out, he could probably go over there and do a 2-hour live stream every day, and everybody would be like, oh, that was great. He's doing like 6, 7, 8 hours of streaming, of Gonzo streaming for you guys. So that's a big deal. That is a big deal. But so yeah, I thought the Longines was a hit. I also light. Let me see if I can find it on here. There's another new release this year this week that caught my eye. Is there a picture? I don't see it. I don't know. I don't see the article. Let's see. Let me find it this way. Zenith came out with a new Defy Skyline Night Surfer. I thought was pretty sharp looking. So it's a skeletonized version of my watch. It's PVD coated. Let's share this tab. And I thought they did a heck of a job with this thing. So they moved the 10th of a second counter to 6 o'clock from 9 o'clock. So it gives the dial a little symmetry, especially with the skeletonization. I don't mind it at 9 o'clock on mine, but I can see where some people would be not so into it. But yeah, so what makes a couple of things that make the Defy Skyline Night Surfer different than the original Defy Classic Night Surfer. You have the El Primero movement. You have the quick change system for the straps. So I believe, it's a Time and Tide collaboration. So here you see the two watches. Let's see if we can make that big. So on the left is the new Skyline version Night Surfer. The right is the classic Night Surfer version. When you look at the case, you can see some of the differences, especially in the bezel. So the bezel has the what is it, a dodecadon, the 12-sided bezel. Oh, Timmy's over at MBMF. Cool. Whereas the classic has the round bezel. The classic has a center seconds, which is actually hard to read on that watch. It's a very, very thin hand, and it sort of blends into the skeletonization. So this actually 10th of a second counter is actually a little bit easier to read as far as seconds go. Not that you're ever going to count down anything on the seconds on that. But it's cool looking. It's got like a little insanity to it. I like the crown better on the Skyline than on the Classic. I like the quick change, the fact that the quick change system is there on the Skyline versus the Classic. And I actually wore mine on the rubber the other day for work, which I hadn't done in a while. Just a cool way to go about it. What do you guys think? Any thoughts on the new Zenith? Again, I understand I'm basically talking to no one. There's a couple of you popping over, and I appreciate that, but that's good. Because nobody's here, that means you guys are ever watching Tim. And I'm a fan of that. So, but I thought the Zenith really did a nice, Evan, he says, I like skeleton watches. I thought they did a nice job with it, the upgrades to it. I mean, it's expensive. I don't know. I think it's like 11 grand. I don't know that it's $11,000 watch in my mind, but it's kind of cool looking, and the way they use the blue in there really makes it pop. But it's essentially, so it's still old Primero 3620, just like I have in mine. So it runs at 5 hertz or 36,000 VPH. So it's a high beat movement. They blued the star rotor on there, which is cool. Oopsie. They did the 41, 11.6 height. So it's the exact same size, 12-sided bezel. It's just this one's titanium. It's microblasted titanium. 100-meter water resistance. So all that is the same as my. Yeah, it's the same. 11.9 Swiss francs. Yeah, but I think I saw an article where it was like 11.3, maybe 11.1, 11.3 US. Yeah, the small seconds is it's actually easier to read. I think most people would prefer it was just a standard 60-second counter, but even at that, the seconds hand on the classic is just real hard to read. Dr. Boswell said Nightmare says, I want a crazy watch that does donuts in the parking lot, goes with my mullet. I know. Can you imagine if I had this in the 80s? Evan G says, yeah, my only issue with Venice is that they're like $2 to $3 too expensive at retail. I get the great craftsmanship and brand heritage, but I just can't help but look at Joe and Shaw prices. Yeah. So Zenith is a brand that you need to shop around on. So I picked this one up from Watchbox. The card was dated December 2022. I spoke to Nick and who was helping me with the transaction, but he was out in New York. The watch was at the Philadelphia place, and pardon me, I can't remember the girl's name in Philadelphia that was reaching out to me. But Watchbox was great to deal with, but she said in her estimation the watch had never even been sized. That it was traded in, and it seemed like it was a just a purchase history purchase for someone. So, and it came out of Colorado near Evan originally before they got it. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the 1916 company. Yes, exactly. So, yes, the company 1916. Yes, that is the company in question. But yes, so they have a lot going on over there. But yeah, probably Hyde Park, which is also I think it was. Didn't we look? We looked at the box that day. Yeah, I mean, I think it was Hyde Park. But yeah, their impression of the watch was that it had never been worn. So I ended up getting a really great deal on it. But so Zenith, you need to shop your deals because I agree with Evan. I think they're expensive new for no reason. So and they're the only Longines in town. Huh? ADs, yes. So if you can find a deal, Tim's buddy of Joe Shop, I know they have deals on Zenith watches. You find them on different platforms. It's funny. Did you guys? Well, how about the watches that Brian unboxed last night? Holy crap! So one of the things I found interesting, because it was part of my mindset when I repicked up the Legend Diver, was he said, I look for things that are at places that maybe don't specialize in them. So when I was really close to pulling the trigger on a Joma Shop or Watch Max, whichever one I can get to be a little bit cheaper on a brand new Legend Diver because I missed mine. And then Fed put that one up in the video, and it was a year old Legend Diver. But when he put it up on the video, I thought that's an odd watch for Fed. He's not really a long, you don't think of Fed for Longines and stuff. So that's when I started making the inquiries into that watch. I ended up saving myself quite, I ended up paying $1,400 for that watch. It's retailed for $2,500. I think on the Joma Shop it was like right around $1,800, but I had to pay tax on that. I sent a wire. So I ended up probably saving $500 on it going that way. So Tim G reminding everyone to upvote. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And please go. And if you haven't upvoted Tim's stream, please do. Um, yeah, when am I unboxing my Richard Mille? Yeah, you know me. You know me and my price range. Uh, MG says, I wish they'd just price them appropriately. They'd make more money and sell more watches instead of the stupid game of hoping that suckers buy them at full price. Yeah, I get it. There's a few brands like that, where I think, why? You know, why would you want to sell more? So, when you're selling things and you're manufacturing things and you have costs and stuff, I mean, you have an idea where you need to be to sell the watch or the car or whatever it is. But when when they're yeah, JLC just raised all their prices. Yeah. So when you bump those prices up that hard, it's crazy. Um, so then you're asking people to buy them secondary, because they're so expensive on the thing. David H says he loves the Octo Sport. First time I handled one was memorable for sure. Yeah, it's a beautiful watch. It's absolutely gorgeous. He did really nice. He did a real nice job picking up those two. And what's cool with those two watches with Brian is he'll wear them. They're not just going to sit in a box. There we see, he's been talking, on this show and I'm sure on the community and on Timmy's show about making some moves because he wants, less, just one leather strap watch, 100 meters of water resistance. I'm going to be in Florida, so I think he really did good. Okay, I'll go to Dubai for a thumb swipe on Timmy's channel. Enough guilt. Well, yeah, give him a thumb swipe. Give him a vote. He deserves it. He's working hard. That's the thing. He's really working hard at this. So, and I'm not trying to, we just do the show every Sunday morning at 10. And we'll get quite a few viewers. But we'll triple the viewers as the week goes on, which always tells me that people come back to it and watch it later, which is cool. So there's nothing time sensitive that we're doing here. So if you have a chance to check something out, if you're interested in the MBNF that he's looking at or whatever, you should go. Hey, cool. Thanks, Dr. Bob. You're the best. Yeah. So, but all that's good stuff. He's giving good content, and we do our thing. Harry's gonna be coming on here in a little bit. He had sent me an email this morning saying probably around 11, and to talk about Jack Heuer and some of his Heuer watches that he loves, which I'm very excited to see because Harry's got a great watch collection. I don't know if you guys remember, had he unboxed a what was it, a Sermon? And he actually took it diving the next week, because he actually dives. And he showed some of his other watches that he had in his collection. He had a pretty impressive, diverse collection of watches, which I like to see. So I'll be curious to see what he has in the Hoyers and what I know he said that there's some other stuff that he hasn't gotten yet that he's looking at and stuff. So should be pretty cool to see what he has to say about that. That'll be coming up probably around the top of the hour. Anything else going on in the world of watches? Obviously, Dubai Watch Week is taking most of our thoughts here. Let's see what we got. Oh, Tag Heuer. Dubai Skyline Limited Edition. I didn't see this. The Tourbillon H02T. So that has some Zenith look to it. It kind of reminds me a little bit more of the classic Night Surfer that we just looked at, which is kind of cool. Tag has been doing some interesting things lately. They kind of become a mall brand for a while there. We're getting some not so good watch love, from the collectors, but they've really kind of upped their game here as of late. So yeah. So this is the Dubai limited edition. You can see how they put the skyline on the outside of there. If anybody's on my Instagram, it kind of looks like the picture I put on my Instagram story yesterday. Hold on, let me see if I can pull that up. Pull it up, Mark. Oh, it's not there. That must have been too long, timed out. But I had a picture of like a skyline over the Defendo, like a rendering of the skyline above that. So we have talked about this watch a few times. Let me show this real quick because somebody asked me if I got it back from my brother. I was like, nah, I uploaded some wrist rolls onto my Instagram yesterday, but one of the ones that I did was this watch my brother still has, which I'll probably just let him keep. But that was my Spirit Zulu time. I'm already saying was as in past tense. I haven't had it in 8-9 months. But that's a great watch. If you're looking for something around $3,000, GMT, applied aerobics, really pretty. It's a big watch. Yeah, but they came out with the 39 now too. So in that as well. But because that has a long link, its male end link is makes that watch wear a little bit bigger. And it's not a small watch to begin with. So but we did pop that on there. And let's see if anything else interesting I threw on there. We talked about this Furlan Mari before, which is a cool watch, but little small for my wrist. Really, the lug length, I think it was 18 lugs. I mean, they made it even smaller to me. But a cool watch, Mecha Quartz, Furlan Mari. I think it was around $600. Kind of cool looking. My Christopher Ward. I had the C60 #Tide with the loomed dial. So the dial, the bezel, the bracelet on that is amazing. Actually, they really do a nice job with their bracelets. Their fit and finish is good. Christopher Ward's come a long way. If you have, if you're getting into watches, um, it's hard to beat some of their stuff and at the prices that they do them. They do a nice job. They've really come a long way with a lot of their stuff. I even like the 12, their integrated sports bracelet watch, which I didn't at first, but I've kind of come around on it. My retrograph, the Brew. Yeah, I just uploaded a bunch of wrist roll picture videos onto my Instagram last night. I was bored watching the Penguins lose. Is he interviewing Max? Daniel Katz will be jealous. The Baltic. I think that was the HMSO2 Spectre dial. Cool watch. Again, not real big, but not a bad watch. The Ranger. I actually prefer the Ranger on this hybrid leather rubber strap over the bracelet. Not that the bracelet's bad, but it just the contrast was cool on the watch. Made it good for like a sport watch and a true field watch. Good stuff there. But Here's when I tried to put a NATO strap on my Seamaster 300M. It didn't look bad. It's not my thing. The NATO straps just really aren't my thing. Thank you, Sean. Yes, please upvote and please upvote here. Please upvote Tim. You know, like I said, this stream gets recorded so you guys can come back and watch it anytime. So no one, you know, I have Tim on in the background watching his coverage of Dubai. So don't forget to check that out. Can't stress that enough. But yeah, wonder where he's going next. Wonder where we're going next. We're waiting on Harry to show up and talk about some Heuers. And Jack Heuer, he actually sent me a thing. I thought it was just like an article. It was a book. So I didn't really, I was busy at work all week. So I didn't get a chance to really get into it hard. So we're relying on Harry to give us some Jack Heuer info. What do you guys think? I like the Heuer. I like when they do the Heuer releases. My AirPods are dead for some reason. It's weird. They were on the charger, but they died. It's not the best way to do this for me. But Brickstrap NATO is I don't get a strike like the other mark. Yeah, I like I actually preferred that watch on the rubber strap on the deployant. Out of all the straps I tried, that was definitely the best one. But yeah, they do a nice job with that. I made chicken marsala the other day with some broccolini and some new potatoes with garlic and garlic, parsley, and dill, and some. Took a baguette and made garlic bread out of it. Sometimes I'll pick up the small baguettes at the Market District, repurpose those. I made some. Let the slow cooker churn me out some ghost pepper chili the other day. So it's just a ghost pepper sauce I put in there, but good stuff. So we've had some food this week. Breakfast this morning, delicious. How do you beat dill and chives in your eggs? And a little turkey sausage. A little Italian bread for toast. Always good. Hard to beat. Definitely hard to beat. I just like how a lot of brands have been going back into their catalogs and taking more inspiration. Yes, I need to. And Dear Artifact, I know it was one of the things that we would talk about when he would come on. Excuse me, was that we liked the releases that looked vintage. We weren't as much into vintage watches, but we liked the ones that looked a little vintagey. I think for most regular watches, not the avant-garde stuff, the golden era for design was the 60s and 70s. In a lot of cases, it's true. You know, there's still a lot of inspiration, pulled from those. Obviously, the Legend Diver is a direct, I mean, it's almost a one-for-one in a lot of ways in design. It's not a true super compressor, but it's the design language of that is really similar. We looked at the Ultrachron, the other Longines. It's almost a one-to-one remake of of a 60s, 70s watch. This watch is based on a very famous 60s, 70s design. I mean, they can talk about the original Defy all they want, but I mean, this is a very Genta-esque reissue of that Defy original Defy model. And then they really came out with the original Defy on the ladder bracelet. So yeah, I like when they do that as well. I think it's cool. I think it's cool to see those things. They do nice stuff. Um, is he looking at resin stuff? Yeah, they do very cool stuff over there. So very impressed. Um, but this Defy or this Dubai limited edition really reminds me a lot of that Night Surfer that we just looked at. But very cool watch, Tourbillon, and let's see. I wonder what this thing's going for. Zoinks, 22,000 euros. That's expensive, Tag Horror. But they haven't been afraid to do some of these lately. I think they're trying to pick up the image of the brand a little bit. Yeah, a little bit of a we're a mall watch company image. But there was a new Oris release too that was kind of cool looking. Let's see here. Don't know. That's it. Let's see. Oris. The Pro Pilot X. It was like just how the Kermit is. So if you guys like the Kermit, there's that one. They do well. Here's the skeleton that they do on that too. So it's kind of cool looking. Oh, here's the new one. Caliber 400 laser. Yeah. So here's a couple examples of the skeleton, which is cool. But it's a 44 millimeter case in their skeleton versus the 39 in the standard Profile X. But they came out with this new dial on this watch, which I thought was kind of cool looking. It reminds me a little bit of No Endless Time. He has the Zen, the Black Mother of Pearl Zen, and it's not a 105. I don't think it might be a 556, but very cool. Very, very cool. I just saw Dingo Dave giving best wishes to D Dog for his gallbladder surgery recovery. Yes. Been chatting with D Dog here a little bit on Instagram. He was saying he might need some recipes to get some because he's going to change his diet a little bit. So very cool. Love D Dog. He's a good guy. Good contributor to the community. And we should support each other. We should be friends. Speaking of supporting one another, I am going to make a quick 2-day trip at the beginning of December. And I'm going to stop in Philadelphia and have dinner with Small G and Double D and hopefully Tony and whoever else is around. And then next morning, head up to New York City for dinner with hopefully Tim and OC and whoever else is around. OC's already said yes. Tim gave me a thumbs up, but yeah, we'll see from there. I know they are really light. I almost threw the FXD across the room the other day at the Tudor event by accident. I kind of was trying to put it on and it was awkward because the strap was really small and the Velcro, and it was one of the things that ruled out the FXD for me, but it was so light and it kind of flipped like it was going to flip up out of my hand. And I was like, damn, I could have thrown that all the way across the room. Late 60s cast was always a cool watch, in my opinion. Are you talking about a King Seiko? There, Dr. Bob. Come on, Dr. Bob. I told those Grand Seiko guys that I like their watches. Then they buy me any sort of love. Yeah, the King Seiko. Let's look. I haven't looked at a King. Now they reissued a couple King Seikos here lately, didn't they? If I remember correctly. Dr. Bob, big Seiko, Grand Seiko fan. So yeah, this looks like a re-release. I like the bracelet on that. Ooh, I like the dial on this one. That's kind of cool. So Dr. Bob, in the Seiko hierarchy, is King Seiko below Grand Seiko? Is a king not as high? I don't know. King is different. Yeah, King Seiko and Grand Seiko are basically the two different Seiko factories competing with each other. Gas shape, the 6R doesn't belong in it though. Yeah, lacking the precision, says Evan, that you would expect. And Evan says the fit and finish is not what you would expect. I've never handled one. I know more about them because Dr. Bob brings them up than anything else. And I kind of remember them doing some of the reissues, like see an article on it and stuff. Him is showing a beautiful watch right now. I don't know what it is. I don't see the name on it. Sorry. Is it a Speak Marin? Kind of an integrated sports bracelet watch. It's gorgeous looking. Brian, I think it must be called a GMT Ripples because Brian just commented that he would love a GMT Ripples. So I'm sure that's what it is. Dr. Bob says the KS lost the design competition, but the movement in the King Seiko won. Yeah, like the bracelet end links, the gaps between the bracelet and the lugs is inconsistent. That's a traditional Seiko thing, and I like Seikos, for entry level watches, but their fit and finish, especially with their bracelets and lugs, is always a little suspect. As is their dive, their off centered dive counters can be a little odd. So yeah, he's looking at Speak Marin now. Is it Speak Marin or Speak Marin? I'm not even sure. Good looking pieces though. We'll see if Harry's gonna be coming on here anytime soon. You know what, Thomas? We're gonna look that up here in a second. I just wanted to drop the link in case Harry doesn't see it pinned at the top and he comes along. So Thomas says, what do you think of the new limited edition Doxa Sub 300 with the blue mother of pearl dial that was brought out in collaboration with UA dealer Ahmed Siddiqui and Sons? It's great on the rubber strap. So Evan says that Seiko had two different factories compete internally against each other to produce the best watch to put in the chronometer competitions. Interesting. So this watch that Tim has on right now is really good looking. I don't know if I can. I'm just gonna pop over and show it. Let me show this one quick with Timmy on screen.
Look at this. Wow.
That's
And
good
like you
looking.
said, it's
That
a
is a good
circle,
looking
it's a
piece.
square, it's a octagon, it's also a
Just moved
pentagon.
over
It
to
could
someone
be any
else, but
shape that you can think of.
I thought that was interesting.
Whatever your mind
Pattern
chooses to
dial.
focus on at that moment.
And the hand finished
What
bridge
is
is
that?
an angle thing and
Micro
really
rotor
quite a
movement.
unique watch in this
Speak,
price position.
speak, man.
Exactly. I mean, it
Brian
competes
said
against
Ripple
other Holy
DMC.
Trinity watches, like an Aquanaut.
I mean,
that one
we
does not
produce
work.
60 of these pieces, so I
Oh,
don't know if
oh, no, it doesn't
if
really
we
compete in
compete,
anything.
it's
Yeah.
it's a small
seconds or
limited edition for
game two?
people who
Oh,
have
in the
who
know.
are lucky
Too
enough
much.
to
I
be
can't.
fast enough to get one of the 60
Beautiful
pieces.
dial.
Exactly. Wow.
Kudos, Tim. That's a cool. Oh, he still would speak mirrors. Okay, cool. A squircle. Yes, it is a squircle. All right, Thomas wanted to look at the let's see. Let's see. Oh, that's not it. Talks sub 300 Blue Mother Pearl. Oh, that's cool. There it is. The 300 isn't always my favorite case shape and bezel configuration on their watches, but this actually works a little better than their normal stuff, Thomas. Oh, there it is on the white strap that you're talking about. Yeah, that's a good looking piece. Is there anything special about it aside from the mother of pearl and the coloring? Because that's not a standard color for them. It does say special edition. It's a beautiful watch. It's a beautiful dial. And Doxa is an acquired taste for people. Some people love it, some people don't. But yeah, so Timmy's talking to the guys over at Speak Marin, and really he's been doing his best interviews and his best work. So Thomas, are you a fan of the Doxas in general? I know you have quite a vintage collection. And Harry, are you going to be on, or do you want your icon?
I figure I'm going to show watches or talk watches. It's always best to
yeah, it's good.
show a face.
Yeah, you're fine. How are you, sir?
Very good. How you doing, bud? Good to talk to you.
You too. So I've been telling everybody the whole show that I know Tim's live right now at the watch show. So we don't have a ton of people watching, but there will be people watch. I'll get up 300, 400, 500 viewers by the end of the week. So
yeah, and frankly, I'm watching in the background as well.
Yeah, I am too.
But stuff. Right. Yeah. And honestly, yeah, I want to stop by thanking you for doing the show, Mark. I mean, it's kind of a like a less main stage than Tim's show. I mean, I enjoy watching Tim's show, but going on to show the watches I'm going to show today would be, frankly, disrespectful to Boston and Brian's going to show two watches. Oh my God. I mean, the watches I'm going to show don't belong nowhere near on the same stage. So, thank you for giving us an audience or a place to, to engage and share our passion for
Thank
watching.
you. I appreciate that. I just, man, I just dig watches. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Hype, no hype, whatever. I mean, and again, the ones I'm going to share today, there's no real value in these things. Are just, and frankly, as I always say, I've never sold a watch. So, what they tell me means nothing to me. It's just a matter of which ones I can afford to buy. And frankly, it's oftentimes not a lot.
Exactly. So for those of you guys who don't know, Harry bought it was a Sermon, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yep.
And actually took it diving, which I thought was just amazing. Like a week later, he sent me a picture of him in the water with his watch. And my favorite thing. Harry's got a lot of things I like about him in his collection and his theater room. But my favorite thing about Harry, and Harry knows this, his avatar when he's in the chat is the Pulp Fiction watch. And I just think that's amazing because he actually owns it. And that is, to me, every time I see it, I get a little chuckle. I can hear Christopher Walken say, and I carried this uncomfortable hunk of metal in my hand.
Exactly. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, a great movie and
yes.
a watch as a main character in the movie is a rarity. And that one really took center stage for a good portion. It drove the whole plot.
Had some good scenes. So, Thomas Burnett says, "What's your favorite vintage Heuer?"
So for me, the Joe Seifert 1163 is the grail. And it's kind of funny. You have the reissue of that as the icon for the show today, so it was kind of fitting that you put that out. I mean, ultimately, what it comes down to is, Joe Seifert was the biggest most impactful move that Jack Heuer made, as far as driving forward, and he was a pretty amazing guy. Unfortunately, we lost him in 1970.
Wasn't he driving like an experimental, like a magnesium car or something? That wasn't that just the fire was so intense, and so
that's exactly right. Yep, you're right on. Exactly. Yep. And the truth of the matter, I like to say, as much as I like Formula One now, those guys are really standing on the shoulders of giants. When it comes the guys in the 60s and 70s, they drove because they loved it. They weren't in it. Money was not the priority. I'm not saying that with everybody today, but when we look at the fact that Le Mans, the last time a Formula One driver drove in that was almost 10 years ago, and for obvious reasons. I mean, they're in some serious contracts, but also, you look at the history of it. They were about racing, and they were on the edge all the time in their cars. I mean, I read a stat at one point. It was, if you had driven 5 years, 60%, your chance of dying in the race car was 60%.
Yeah, I remember Jackie Stewart. So I was a big Jackie Stewart fan when I was a kid because he was. Well, he transitioned out of racing when I was a kid and into doing commentary, on U.S. races, a lot of IndyCar stuff. But he was such a proponent. He would talk about risks and the funerals and when you would see him interviewed about something like that, and you could see what it was doing to him emotionally. And then Francois Sever, his teammate, died, and then he never raced again. Glenn.
I mean, just plain, a ton of tragedies in there, and you go back and look at it, just wasn't the safety there. I mean, literally where you had was it Jochen crash?
Yeah,
that they would literally one of the other drivers was trying to put the fire out, and the guards.
Oh, that was what was that guy's name? He went flipping he flipped the car at the Belgian Grand Prix and it caught on fire.
Right. Yeah. Spa. Yeah. Was that Rindt? I think it might have been Joe.
No, Rindt died in at Monza.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Qualifying.
Yeah, and qualifying. I know who you're talking about. But Rent was another one that wasn't wearing a safety belt.
Yep.
And the guardrail or whatever he hit was loose, and it tore the front of the car off and basically tore his legs off. And then they didn't get him into the right ambulance. They took him to the wrong hospital. I mean, it was just a
and didn't he also? Yeah, he also didn't he hit one of the guards there, one of the whatever they call them.
That was the dude. Okay, so that might have been the South African Grand Prix. What was that guy's name? He didn't have a long career, but he got one of the marshals. He hit him, and his fire extinguisher killed him instantly.
Exactly right. Yep.
Yeah, because it hit him in the head, knocked his helmet off, and then he went and he was full throttle. Remember, he was full throttle down the track.
Right.
Tom Price.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. I mean, there's just so many of them. It's hard to. It's truly
terrible.
But I mean, ultimately, what it comes down to for me is that was essentially the golden age of Formula One, because it was all about the passenger. You know what I mean? And it kind of at the same time, that time frame was also the golden age for Heuer for me. So, first thing I'm going to do is start with some disclaimers about, again, I like to say I'm just the guy in my basement, you know what I mean? I'm by no means an expert on Heuer, I'm no means an expert on any watches. I just kind of dig it. And Jack Heuer is a bit of a hero for me from a watch perspective.
Okay.
So today happens to be Jack's 91st birthday. So I thought it would be somewhat fitting to come on, wish him a happy birthday. Not he's going to see this, but ultimately, when you look back at Heuer, everything that was great about him really kind of came to be with him. Not that, I mean, Heuer had tremendous horological chops before he came on board.
Yeah.
His great grandfather. Let me see, I wrote down some of the things that responsible for, just so I could remember. Let's see, where did I write that down? We'll skip it. We'll come back to it. But ultimately, what it comes down to is, I'm going to kind of quote some stats here. I kind of wanted to, because the watches aren't going to be anything special, but the story behind it might be. So to make it interesting, I kind of wrote down a little timeline of Jack's career, and where these watches fit in there. So ultimately, the ones I'm going to show you today really kind of came to, because I think you and I talked about, we went to the Patriots game in Germany last week.
Yeah.
And I like to buy a watch when I travel. It doesn't have to be anything special, but it's you kind of build a history of hey, I remember when I got this watch over the trip, has it together. So I had lined up all the Rolex dealers and where they were and how they were going to be, but I didn't expect a whole lot of success there, for obvious reasons. So I did some looking at some vintage watches, and it was a pre-Carrera that I had found in the Netherlands that I was thinking about. That might be the watch, but it was about an hour train ride out of Amsterdam, so it was like bar. And frankly, as I was packing up, a few hours before it was time to leave, one of the watches popped up on the show, popped up on Watch You Seek or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's too cheap, and it's a pretty special watch to me, anyways. So it became my trip watch, even though I didn't get it. Get to that in a little bit. So let's see. So let's take my notes here. So as we talked about, it's Jack's birthday, so kind of figured it'd be kind of cool to come on. Now, kind of just touch on, where Heuer fits in. Well, actually, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What do you know about how Heuer became Tag Heuer? And I don't expect you to. This isn't a quiz. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
No, you're fine.
Oftentimes, people don't quite get the whole story, and I think if you look at it from the full story, it kind of changes the impact that Jack had on perspective. So when you see the transition from Heuer to Tag Heuer, what do you know about that?
I just thought it was, essentially maybe Heuer was struggling, needed some cash, combined with the Tag, whatever the name was, and became Tag Heuer. my thing with tag, and I have a couple. I like tags. You know, I'm not one of these people that hates them, but
Mhm.
for about a 10-year period, they were like the nice mall watch.
Right.
You
That's a
know,
good.
that was,
Yeah.
you know,
For so many of us, it was a place where we started our journey in watches.
right.
You know,
It was a Movado or a tag.
right. And frankly, I had both. I'm sure you did as well. It's funny. The one watch I don't own anymore of all the watches I bought is a
Yeah.
Movado. I was on the trip to the Caribbean. We might have been somewhere around
Yeah.
when I was getting married, and it disappeared from my room. It's like, yeah, of all the watches this year, go right ahead.
Yeah.
So so this is cool because I think your impression of the transition is very similar to what mine used to be.
Okay.
And you got to do some research on it. And I think it's kind of widely accepted that Tag, basically bought out Heuer, and Jack was cashing out or something along that. And there's a little bit more. There's another facet to it that I think kind of changes the dynamic.
Okay.
Jack was, passionate about driving the company forward. He made some mistakes that people capitalized in the process that ended up resulting in him, standing on the sidelines and having the company taken from him. But let's kind of roll back and kind of start with where he started with the company. Again, he was the fourth generation. They were a small player in the world, I guess you could say. Not tiny. I think they were doing about $2 million in sales at that time. It's relatively significant, but by no means not in Rolex's world, or Omega or any of this at the time. Their focus, their leading product at that point was essentially the dashboard time of the Octavia. It was kind of where most of their people, most of the enthusiasts kind of developed from. And ultimately, what it comes down to was the timing of racing.
Technical difficulties.
Remember that pushing. So 1958, he joins the company. He's first tasked with going to Germany. Going to the United States and kind of setting up that department and getting it rolling, because they recognized that there was a tremendous market share that they weren't capitalizing. It was the smallest of their markets and a huge opportunity. So he kind of spearheaded that. In the process, he did a couple of rallies in Switzerland before he left, and in one of them they actually finished third. And at that point they would essentially report out on either their own times. They'd keep their own times on the dash and report in as to what their time was in the rally. And he actually misread the dial on it, and as a result, they finished third. Had he reported his time properly, they would have finished first.
Huh.
So that kind of started, it cemented his vision of what's critical to a watch and function first. You know what I mean? When we talk about, let's talk about, the Holy Trinity and Rolex. I mean, let's face it, they all kind of lead. It's a delicate balance between, art and science. You know what I mean? Form versus function. And, we look at Patek, to kind of tie it to a car. I like to think of Patek as basically the Rolls Royce. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's about as nice as it gets. It's all about the beauty of it, and it's not, the owners tend to ride in the back, not always, but you know what I mean. It's not. Right. It's about beauty, not so much about the function that it delivers. AP, I guess you could say they're kind of the Lamborghini of the watch. You know what I mean? It's stunningly beautiful. But not that I could afford a home run, but if I could, I don't think I could. From the maintenance, much like a Lamborghini, it's a beautiful car. Not necessarily a driver's car. And then you get to Vacheron, and I kind of look at Vacheron as, I guess Mercedes would be a good fit for them. The stance of the S60, the S-Class as it drives down the road really kind of makes a statement of, I'm here. Right. And the beauty of the SL, and just classic beauty lines. And then you get to Rolex, and Rolex, I will say, to me, what makes them perfect is it's 50% form, 50% function. Yeah. It's beautiful what it is, kind of like Porsche. You know what I mean? When you think back to a Submariner from the 50s and 60s, you can look at one and know exactly that it's the direct, my Submariner is a direct descendant of that path, much like the 911. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, they're both bulletproof. So I just mixed that. So then you get to Heuer, right? And ultimately, it comes down to for Heuer, form led first. What time read out, what was the need of the person who was wearing it was critical, and that was kind of his cemented his vision of the company of what it should be doing. So, like in 1958, they redesigned that dashboard timer, came up with the Monte Carlo version, and at that point, Arca basically retired the Octavia as a dashboard clock. And that was basically because he misread the dial, and if he was doing it, somebody else was too. So he made a better product. So then that kind of puts like 1958 in where he started, and then he was 28 when he took over the reins of the company, and he did that because his uncle, who was leading the company at that point, wanted to sell out. Volvo was making them a pretty generous offer, and he wanted to sell out, and Jack kind of felt that there was a tremendous opportunity, no reason to sell out here, and talked his dad into, as well as his uncle, into letting him take over the reins, and did some shifting where his dad kind of supported him and gave him some shares, and he had to buy some, and he became the CEO of the company. At that point, it was like his vision, his execution from there on forward, and ultimately that's where the classic vintage Heuer watches that you see that are sought after.
Yeah.
Really. In 1962, he reintroduced the Octavia, and that was auto and air was the vision there. And he had an opportunity to go to was Sebring, the 12 hours of Sebring down in Florida, and at that point, he met was the Rodriguez brothers' parents, right? And they were the one that introduced him to the word Carrera, because they had talked about the Carrera Panamericana.
Yeah.
And how they were happy that their sons were young enough that they weren't driving in that. And frankly, it ran for 5 times, and that time 30 people died. It was a tremendously dangerous ride, and they were frankly happy that that phase had moved on where it wasn't theirs. But he heard the word, and his herds, he heard Carrera, sexy, but ultimately translates to race. So, like, okay, this is the driver's car. My earbuds. It's funny. I did this on the plane, and because these are noise canceling, so I get and dropped it, and then I had to make everybody. And unfortunately, the color of the carpet was the exact same color as my earbuds. I should have bought the white ones, but I didn't. So it spent me 20 minutes trying to find the stupid earbud, and I had bought the cord that connected them. And I put them on when I slept, but you couldn't charge them with the cord on, so I took it off, and so just a big pain in the butt. So I should have the cord on, but I don't. So where did we left? In 1962. Okay, so he goes back and he registers the name Carrera. So that's where Carrera started. In 1963, Carrera, they introduced the watch, and essentially, the Octavia came out in 62, and it featured a rotating bezel, tachymeter, as well as a timing bezel. And then the Carrera was again focused on, he wanted a clean watch that you could see while you were driving and read and function, and that's kind of where Carrera started, and ultimately where his best product. You know what I mean? His most iconic. Right? So let's see. So that gets us through 1963. Back into my notes. Okay. So again, he's operating the U.S. branch before then, and in the time he had an opportunity in 1964. Rolex was also in New York, and he had an opportunity to go meet with them, kind of get to know your competition. Was his goal. And when he walked into the offices on Fifth Avenue, he was just taken aback by all the pictures of celebrities wearing the Rolex watches, and it kind of dawned on him that, hey, this is something that we should probably be doing. So, so we kind of took that and learned from them. He engaged and said, how did you get all these celebrities to wear your watches? And that's where he learned about product placement. And so product placement he went back and said, all right, now how do I position our watches in that same limelight with the same audience? And so we hired Don Hunley, who was that prop master out in Hollywood. and that's going to come into dividends, pay dividends probably 6 years down the road. But he basically started that process, and that'll lead us to the Monaco. So let's see, that's 64, 68. 68, I'm just going to throw it in here because I don't know if you're, we all watch football on the East Coast growing up. There was the 1 o'clock games, there was the 4 o'clock games, and then immediately we led into 60 minutes. Right?
Exactly.
Do you realize the watch you saw in 60 minutes from outside of the first 4 or 5 episodes until like 1999 was actually a Heuer watch. It was a Heuer stopwatch. That was the focus.
I knew that. That's cool.
The first several years it was Heuer and it was branded Heuer, and then it became they dropped the brand and it was an Aristo watch, which was essentially just a rebranded Heuer, like they often did. But it was ultimately it was the Heuer Trackmaster, and we saw that watch too.
That's like the most iconic stopwatch of all time.
Absolutely right, yeah, and you wouldn't know the connection unless you
Right.
yeah, and being on the East Coast, we have that connection because it was
instant, right? As soon as football was over, it was like tick 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 tick.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that gets us through 1968, and then we come 1969, Project 99. Okay. You had at that point many of them working on creating an automatic chronograph. Right? They were Heuer was a smaller company. They didn't have the money to go out. It was like $500,000 they would have had to spend to develop their own automatic chronograph. So they teamed up with Breitling, they teamed up with Buren, and worked together to develop what they called the Chronomatic. So this was their first automatic chronograph. That launched, I think it was March at Basel Fair, and in March of 1969 they introduced it. At that point, was it Zenith? The El Primero beat them by essentially 2 months. In January, they launched their working prototype. They had 2 working prototypes. So by March, Heuer and Breitling, they had about 50 of them working. So technically, El Primero beat them, but Heuer was essentially the first to market. Seiko had a big play in there too. They also had a watch, I think, that they had released within their own market, so it wasn't available internationally, but it was right along the same time.
Gotcha.
Which doesn't truly matter, but ultimately they were all pushing to the same goal. So that puts us in 1969. And what Heuer did was they introduced that into the Octavia as well as the Carrera. And then they came out with the new model, the Monaco. And what drove him to that watch was it was a square case. So it was something completely different looking.
Right.
But it was waterproof, so it served its purpose from a functional perspective. And yet, but it wasn't, it was a square watch. Nobody really liked the watch. So the Octavia and the Monaco was selling off the shelves. The what do you call it? Excuse me, the Octavia and the Carrera were selling off the shelves. The Monaco was kind of sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
That puts us in 1969. Okay, so then also 1969 was when they brought Joe Seifert on board and signed him to be a brand ambassador. I can't say he was the first brand ambassador. He was likely the first brand ambassador in racing. He signed him for a contract of 25,000 Swiss francs a year, right? So to put that into perspective, at that time, the dollar was worth about 4.35 Swiss francs.
Yeah.
So he was basically signed to wear the logo on his chest, to wear the logo on his car, to wear the watch on his wrist. That was part of the contract. It's about driving. He was to wear the watch on his wrist for essentially $5,700 a year. So it wasn't a ton of money. It was essentially, just a little bit of money. So in addition to that, Joe was given the opportunity to wholesale the watches. So he would sell the watches around in the pits to everybody, and that's why so many the drivers. I mean, it was the watch in sports car racing in Formula One because of Joe, right?
Who was immensely popular guy among the other drivers.
He absolutely was. He was very well respected and well liked and a tremendous driver. Jochen Rindt was his teammate, and that's why you know, he was what, the only Formula One to win champion post him after he died. And again, Jochen Rindt's wife, Nina Rindt, the Universal chief, beautiful woman, beautiful watch, and pretty good pair.
Yeah.
So that gets us to 1969. Joe Seifert. 1970 comes along, and the Don Hunley relationship that the prop master that he's engaged back in 1964, kind of came through and delivered. He was assigned as the property master for the movie Le Mans coming up. So what's kind of cool about Le Mans is it was based on the Porsche 917, I think it was.
Yeah.
And back then, to have those cars, the 5.0 liters, they had to be cars that were essentially produced. So they had to, at that time, the manufacturer had to make 25 of them.
Right.
So, and Joe Seifert was driving one of those and essentially bought one, and he would drive it around town. And he loved the car. But in addition to it, when they had to teach McQueen how to drive, he was a big part of that. They were there to help. And one of the cars they drove was actually Joe Seifert's car in that movie, right?
Yeah.
A funny, interesting fact about that: I think that car just went on sale a couple of years ago. It sold at auction for like $14 million. I know. If you think from a comparison to the watch, what's his name, from a racing perspective, I'm drawing a blank, but that's okay. Just tremendous amount of money, but nowhere near from the historical significance of what that car represents. And maybe today it would sell for 10 times that. I don't know. But Joe and Steve McQueen kind of became buddies, and like we talked about, Joe was well loved, and he was just the iconic race car driver. And when the property master asked McQueen, okay, what do you want to wear for a race uniform? He essentially said, I want to look like Joe Seifert. So Joe went and got one of his race suits and gave it to him. That's essentially what they based it on. They literally said, that's why you see the Heuer logo on McQueen's shirt in the movie, because he wanted it to look exactly like it. So next up is the watch. Okay, so how do we get the watch? And let me just disqualify and say, I'm not gonna show a Monaco today. What I'm gonna show for watch are just small potatoes by comparison. But it's kind of, the history of it is worth talking through. Now I dropped the editor bug. So I'll get this one before it rolls. It's supposed to be a twist. Technically, they said to do. All right, there we go. Now all I can hear myself. Can you hear me okay? Yeah,
I can hear you.
Okay, good. All right. They're sealing it in my ear, and now it sounds like a ear. So then comes the watch, and Don presented McQueen with several watches to choose from. And the first one he picked up was believe it or not, a Speedmaster.
Okay.
And so Don was quick to point out that, okay, you can wear the Speedmaster, but this doesn't make good film continuity when you're wearing a Heuer logo on your chest. So that's where the Monaco comes in. So, okay, McQueen's like, yes, I need to wear the watch I'm wearing on my chest for consistency. So what do we have? So, again, the Monaco wasn't selling well. The Octavia and the Carrera was. So when they sent all the parts over, all the watches over to the movie in France, they sent 6 Monaco. So it basically made it so that became the most logical choice, because they had the most examples of them.
Right.
So they could keep aside for the still shots and have him driving on. What's kind of funny is, was it Awesome Pawn that was talking about Chrono Swiss with you last night?
Yes.
Okay. So interesting thing about Chrono Swiss, the guy that started Chrono Swiss used to work for Heuer.
Oh, okay.
He was the guy that drove the watches from the factory in Switzerland to the set.
That was the guy, the actual guy.
That was the actual guy. Yeah. So he, and then throughout the course of time, Jack actually encouraged him to go out and become an independent watchmaker, and that's where Chrono Swiss started. Was basically at the direction of Jack Heuer. Pretty cool story.
Yeah, I had no idea.
So that puts us at the Monaco, and then obviously that becomes an iconic watch,
Yeah.
right? All because of the movie. Um, so then let's see. So I also wrote down some of the. All right, now here we go. So I talked about. So then we get to what I consider is peak Heuer, and that's 1971.
Okay.
And reason being peak Heuer is because Jack is really hitting his stride. He's got sales are up tremendously. He's got tremendous following, and again, the drivers in sports car racing and Formula One were wearing his watches because they loved to, because they were the perfect functional tool for what they were doing.
Really what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. So that puts us into, let's see, that's 1971 is where we're at. So the first thing up in 1971, Le Mans is released in June, right? And then we get to August. Okay? And this is the first downfall. And this is, people talk about the quartz crisis and how it impacted the Swiss watch companies. There was a bigger player. The quartz kind of gets the blame for it. And to a certain extent, they definitely did change the game. But Nixon is the guy that essentially wiped out the Swiss watch industry. Right?
Nixon.
Now, Nixon, believe it or not, right?
Yeah.
And you've heard the term Nixon shock.
Yeah.
Essentially, what they did is they undid the Bretton Woods Accord, right? That tied the gold standard to the U.S. dollar,
Right.
and everything related to that, right? So, due to inflation and everything, and Nixon was trying to combat. One of the things he did was basically disconnect us from the gold standard as that, and as a result, the dollars moved in. It was no longer fixed. So, what used to be a Swiss franc used to be, $1 got you 4.375
Right.
Swiss francs, right? So by 1971, that worked out to 100 Swiss francs cost you 22.85, right? By 1975, 100 Swiss francs cost you $40, right? By 1971, 100 Swiss francs cost you $67. So what it really means is that to sell a watch that you had your fixed costs in Switzerland. In order to do that, you had to basically triple your prices, right?
Right.
So at the same time that's happening, Quartz is launching where it's providing a lower cost. So
I've never heard that side of the story before.
It's kind of cool when you think about it, right? And the impact that had
was
a lot
of
truly
sense.
devastating, right? Yeah. Now there was a race to quality, so companies like Patek, like Rolex, they survived because people still wanted them for the form versus the function. You know what I mean? But the guys that were buying the watches for the purposes of, for what their needs weren't necessarily buying it as a luxury item. They were buying it because it's a functional tool.
Right.
So companies like Heuer that were slightly below were focused more on function than form, kind of suffered as a result. And at the same time, they were kicking butt. They were still, sales were growing tremendously, but it's an uphill battle when the costs triple versus what you can sell it for. Right. And at the same time, you did have the quartz watch coming into play out of Japan, and Japan's dollar was still fixed against the U.S. dollar until I want to say 1975 or 1978. So their costs were not nearly as impacted. And what is it, Moore's law, that implies that anything electrical goes down 50% over the course of 2 years or something like that. So their costs were going down, where the Swiss watches costs were tremendously skyrocketing. So it really he was thrown uphill against the waterfall.
Yeah.
So kind of the first watch I'm going to show you, and it kind of ties back into, okay, well, look, before I get there, so that's the first downfall, right? And then we get to September. Let's go with October 1st. Right?
Okay.
And that's when Joe Seifert died at Brands Hatch. Right?
Yeah.
In the race. So Jack lost his biggest ambassador. And also he changed his approach then. He said, all right, I don't want to, because these guys are so fragile, essentially, I don't want to be so tied to them that when this happens, we have to deal with it. So he then said, all right, let me switch to tie myself to a builder, a manufacturer, a constructor. And that's where Ferrari kind of came into play. And now I'm going to roll back just a little bit further. And this is, again, having done the research online, I
Mm-hmm.
can't say that this is 100% true, but this is kind of what makes sense to me.
Right.
So, 1971, September 1971, the race at Monza. Jackie Eakes, who was a Ferrari driver, had won qualifying. Right? However, one of the timers, and again, these are people with stopwatches, and she or he, and name was Jean, he was French, was well respected timer, had timed the Matra car with Chris Ammon at basically 4/10 of a second lower. So he was awarded pole position at Monza. So Enzo Ferrari saw this as basically a big slap in the face of, hey, it's embarrassing that we can't win qualifying. Then again, they didn't win the race either. I think Eakes, his car had some transmission issues or something like that, and he didn't end up finishing beyond 15 miles. So I believe that that's where the relationship with Ferrari and Heuer basically started. Was at that point, Enzo wanted some way to be able to show concrete evidence of timing of the other vehicles. Because if you remember, the Centrograph presented the ability to time 5 different cars at the same time, so they could then see from the pits how they were comparing to the other drivers. Before that, it was all based on what was reported based on the timers. So I believe that to be the case, that's where it started. Jack's book kind of deviates from that, and I think some other info online. So I don't know. I could be completely wrong, but it kind of makes sense too.
Makes sense. Yeah, it definitely makes sense.
So then that's where Heuer and Ferrari start first talking, and they wanted them to develop a product to do that. Longines was kind of the first into the game. I guess he had met with Clay Regazzoni in Switzerland, and that got back to Jack. So Jack reached out to Ferrari to see if this is something we could do. And at that point, Jackie Eakes was one of the team drivers with them. And in 1971, they released, again, they're dealing with prices competing, what I consider to be the first moonswatch, right?
Okay.
So, respect to Jack, the one knock I have on the moonswatch is that it has an Omega logo on it. And Jack didn't want the quality of Heuer's reputation to be diminished by this. So their version of the moonswatch was a what do you call it? Was a non-branded Heuer. Now, before that, he had merged with Leonidas to kind of take over from that. So Leonidas became kind of their brand that they had that they just weren't using. So he did put that on a few of those watches. Now, one of the pictures I sent you, I think it was the Cat 1972 catalog 1 and 2. Do you want to kind of show those up to kind of give you a good?
Did you send those to my email?
I did. I believe I did it. If not, I can hit send. No, it looks like it's sent just about 40 minutes ago.
Hold on. There it is. 1972 catalog. All right.
Yeah. So again, Jackie Eakes was a big time Ferrari driver, and so this came off branded as a Jackie Eakes Easy Rider. Now, also, there was a little bit of a falling out, and I can't find a whole lot of detail on this between Steve McQueen and Don Hunley as to how Steve McQueen didn't want to be basically used as a marketing tool for the company, and that's part of why they steered away from Omega, is they feared Omega was going to use them to do that. So, the Easy Rider movie came out in 1969. So I have a feeling that's why it's branded as the Easy Rider and not Le Mans.
Yeah.
So these are the watches they went. And by all means, this is not high horology. This is essentially the Moon's watch, right?
Yeah.
It's the first pin lever chronograph. And this is not a watch that you can wear on a regular basis and expect it to work. But as a result of it being essentially a pin lever chronograph, it was the quality just wasn't there, and they started getting some recalls on it, or setbacks. So they kind of quickly stopped producing them under the Jackie Eakes Heuer label. So the first one I'm going to show you, let me see if I can switch my camera. So Did I shut my camera off? How do I switch cameras? Let me try this one. Bear with me, pal. Can you give me a little coaching on to how to switch my camera to the other way?
So in your phone settings,
Yeah.
is there a I'm trying to see if it's easier to show it to you this way.
Oh, settings. Okay, and then camera. I think I got it, buddy.
Okay.
It's been probably what?
Are you using your phone or are you using a camera?
I'm using a tablet.
Okay. So there may be. Let me make myself big here.
There we go. I got it.
Perfect. All right. We'll make you big so we can see it.
So this is the first watch, and this is the 4 watches you saw were basically the 4 versions of it, like the Moon Swatch, the 4. So this is basically me completing the full set.
Thomas Burnett says he's seen one of these.
Oh, has he really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this one, again, this is I paid $500 for this watch, right? This is new old stock. It's never been worn, it's still got the tag. And again, it's a Heuer watch with the Leonardus label on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can bring it any closer to see it.
Easy
Again,
rider.
Right. Yeah. Nothing fancy, but this one kind of completes the 4 of them, the 4 sets. Yeah. So essentially, December 1971, they launched the Jackie X version of it, and that was the kind of the nicest of them. It included a date function. It didn't include. It also came available on a metal bracelet. Now, what it didn't include was any sort of branding on it anywhere that said Heuer. I think some of the bracelets on the back of the Jackie X one included the word Heuer, but also the packaging included the word Heuer on it. And what's kind of funny about it is the most sought after part about this watch is the packaging it came in. I think, let's see, which one did the third one I sent you. Let me see if I can find the 1970, the Easy Rider 1. If you could pull up that picture.
All right, let's see that. Nope, that's not it. That's the Jackie X.
Yeah, Jackie X Easy catalog, 1972 catalog, Jackie X 1.
This one?
You're not sharing yet.
I made you big. I'm sorry.
Yes, exactly. Right.
Okay.
So we've all seen those helmets, right?
Yeah.
That is what became the most sought after part of this watch is and if you ever find one with the helmet still included in the packaging, by all means buy it.
Just grab it.
Now, 1973 Jackie X unexpectedly leaves Ferrari, right? And around the same time, this watch was just not functioning up to Heuer standards, so they basically discontinued it. What they did is they had a deal with first they discontinued the watch in 1972, the end of 1972. But they had all these helmets and these watch movements, so they created the helmet clocks, and I'm sure you've seen those. Again, those things are collectible, and it's all based on that overrun production that they had of this that they weren't selling. They planned on selling 20,000 of these in 1973, and they just didn't because they made the decision it wasn't in the best interest of the company image to put out a shitty watch, essentially. So the whole Jackie X line, the Leonardus, the Easy Rider one I show you, they make great desk pieces, but they're not a watch you're going to wear. So in addition to that, Jack's pioneer spirit is, okay, now I've got all these watches, what am I going to do with? So they stopped doing the Jackie X one, and they basically sold the remaining inventory to other companies, right? So if you want to switch over, I'll show you what they did with the watch.
There you go.
So this is what became of the Jackie X, right? Notice the logo on it. See it. Right, exactly. And again, this is a Peanuts watch. This one is still functional, and this one I actually still use because I took it apart and I oiled it. Just to get going. So it's a fully functional chronograph. What's different about it is that you start on the top and you stop on the bottom, and then you reset on the top. So it's a simple, the equivalent of a kitchen timer. It's
Yeah.
not, it's a conversation piece. It is the Moon's watch of 1971. Again,
That's cool, though.
what's cool about it is it's again what Jack was doing to kind of keep the company moving forward, in a way to put his watch on the hands of young people that were interested in it.
Yeah.
And these watches sold for $50 when an actual Heuer Octavia Carrera was somewhere in the $200 range. So it was a price point watch.
Oh,
It
yeah.
was, but again, just the 160th anniversary one, I believe. There were two versions of it. There was the Montreal version, which was the similar, the reissue of the one that I showed you just a few minutes ago with the yellow style. And he got the one that I think is much classier looking.
Yeah.
It's just based on the traditional Carrera, simplified, clear, legible dial. Just work. Now, one other one to pull up, if it happens to come up here, is the 80th birthday version.
80th, is it the Carrera 80th birthday?
Yeah. And what I love about this is it brings back the red vintage Heuer logo.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So I just think it's a beautiful watch. Now, the knock I have on this watch is it doesn't have the horological chops.
Right.
Like if you look at the side profile of this thing, it's thick as a brick. You know what I mean? But the dial, I just think is perfect on this because it brings back that vintage red logo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jack Heuer limited edition. Look at that. They don't have a good side picture on here, but it does look a little thick even on these angles.
Because it's so thick. Because anybody sees it,
they want to show it.
I know. But I do believe Sean solves for that. I think it's a much nicer, much more refined watch.
It's a beautiful watch, and it was funny because on his Instagram and even when he would come on this stream, sometimes he wore it a lot. He was wearing it a lot for a while there. I was like, God likes that watch. Yeah,
he picked well, that's for sure.
Yes, it's just funny when you see it. You're like, when you see who's wearing what and what they have on at different times.
It's funny in my little trip that I just got back from. I had the opportunity to try on, Sean's his what do you call it? His gold and blue watch, the Panerai.
Oh yeah.
I had the opportunity to try that on as a chronograph. Well, frankly, I funny story about it, but me and my buddy that we travel to football games with, we kind of bond on football. We've been friends since we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
My interest in watches is of no interest to him whatsoever. So he tolerates kind of stopping in and seeing a few stores, and but at the same time, somebody would want to get there's plenty of other things we can do and stuff. So we get to Milan, and he actually had something I think that didn't agree with him, gave him food poisoning in Germany. So by the time we got to Milan, he was basically wiped out.
Oh.
We found ourselves at the Duomo. We actually went to the Aperol Lounge that kind of overlooks the Duomo.
Okay.
And beautiful spot there to see, and then going onto the roof of the Duomo. And he just, at that point, he's like, geez, I'm just feeling terrible. So basically, we put him in a cab and went back to the hotel. And I was like, all right, I can go climb all these stairs to go look at the roof that I can see from here. Or there's some amazing watch brands available within this block here. So I'm going to go watch shopping and do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So right below that, there's literally a Rolex dealer right next to the Duomo. So I went in there, and honestly, I will say this: I didn't expect to in Milan, but my experience for the other ones that I had kind of poked my head into, they really didn't really want to show me watches.
Mm-hmm.
But the Rolex is just, I found a little put off. You know what I mean? Excuse me. So, but what I also saw at that one there was Sean's watch. They had it in the rose gold with the blue alligator crocodile strap. It's just plain stunning. It was a $30,000 watch as a chronograph, and they actually had it had the 3-hander as well, and I tried that one on. And again,
Okay.
it isn't a price that I would have paid, but I was sitting there thinking, Sean bought this watch for $9,000. Just amazed because
Yeah.
I was looking at it at 20 grand. This is a beautiful watch. I mean, and to think that
It's crazy.
option.
Yeah, it's just it's so good looking. It really is. It just, like I said, I have hope for the brand. I agree with you. I think if they were smart, they would make a higher end version of their watches called, just branded Heuer.
Yeah,
You know?
and they can say that that's the process that they put in place 5 years ago when they started branding some of these watches as just
Yeah.
Heuer. They this instance of the starting the brand. So if they do that, I think there's a ton of potential. But we'll see.
Oh, Harry or Thomas says, Harry, what kind of watches do you gravitate to most? Are you more of a 3-handed fan, a diver fan, etc.? I feel that you are more of a chronograph fan. I think you're a diver guy.
I am absolutely a diver.
chronographs.
Right, exactly. The reason why, because I mean, let's face it, Heuer made chronographs until the market forced them to enter the diver world, right? And that's why this watch was kind of perfect for me, was because it's essentially the last dive watch that Jack had his hand and produced. Again, as quartz, but I think you and I might have talked about this in the past, that my vision on quartz is somewhat different than most of the audience. I'm not opposed to it. No. And the reason I'm opposed to it is, like, I remember the day my father took, take your son to work day, and my father worked on the railroad.
Mm-hmm.
And the history of railroads and watches is a pretty cool subject matter in and of itself.
It is.
But my dad was on the train, and I remember the tension he felt as we walked into the train room for the day before he started his shift, and he had to show his watch to whoever the train master was or whatever that title was. Yeah. And if his watch wasn't 100% accurate, he was in a shitload of trouble, because let's roll back to the ball watch incident in Cleveland, where the number of lives that were lost because the conductor's watch was inaccurate. So that was a stressful thing for him, because he had to make sure. And I remember seeing some of the watches he had before that. He had some pretty cool watches, and again, accuracy was always paramount to him because it needed to be. But he had all these beautiful watches that he just didn't wear, because the ones he did had to be quartz, because every day you get up and you go to work, you need to be able to rely on something that's accurate, that it didn't run out of battery or power reserve to be able to make sure it has the right time. So for me, from a tool watch perspective, quartz fits its need. Much like that diver was the right tool, the right movement for the time of that watch and what it was serving to do. And also, I'm a guy that is not afraid to swing a hammer, do his own work, right? And being able to wear a quartz watch, though, even if I'm out playing golf, a quartz watch, I don't have to worry about the potential damage they're going to cause. So they serve a place. They also serve a place when you just get up, you run a little late, you want to watch the throw on because you can have something on your wrist. So it fills that role. You know what I mean?
100%.
It's perfect. Yeah, from a tool perspective, it does. Granted, on a luxury side perspective, and I am the biggest fan of Rolex. I think by far, as much as I like Heuer, Rolex is a cut above, and that's automatic movements are pretty cool to me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I just so I just, when I was doing my rebranding of my watch collection, if you will, as I was moving stuff around, there was a kid here. I'll show this. There was a kid at Starbucks that loved this watch. I didn't wear it very much, so I actually sold it to him on the cheap. But it's a great watch.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I love the band.
Yeah, the band's great. The dial is amazing. It's a VHP, so it's very high precision. Watch it. It was But I picked up that Seiko speed timer a couple weeks ago. That's a solar quartz watch. I don't hate the quartz watches. I prefer the mechanical and the automatic, but There's some great quartz watches in the world. You know,
Right. Yeah.
there's some
And-
great
and-
watches. Period. You know, I
Yeah.
that I enjoyed. Um, so I'm not anti quartz. I like the I. It's funny to me how the difference in the size of those two watches from the one that you have, your first one, the last Heuer,
Right.
to the
Yeah.
Piaget
And,
one.
and that was a partially a function of the crystal, because that's a mineral crystal, but it's
Okay.
probably the thickest mineral crystal you'll ever see, and
Yeah.
it has like a bevel edge, or like what's it, a top, like a cap edge that
Yeah.
place and then keep it thick and strong. But you're right, and then you get to the 2000, the other one I showed,
Hmm.
and other than having a weird dial on it, it is of no interest to
Yeah.
me. It just looks like, it looks like what Heuer became. Excuse me, what Tag Heuer became for a generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
100%.
got one more to show you if you want,
Okay.
and this one is. Let me frame this properly.
Gotcha.
So, what put me down this path was a few weeks ago. You were talking about what was your favorite watch, right?
Right.
And I forget what the framing of it was, but instantly this watch. It's a watch I don't wear, but I just love. And again, the history on this one, it may be my own creation. I can't say it's based on a little bit of research. Not worth anything. It's truly, it's true. It's a cheap watch, but it wasn't
Right.
at the time. And the history on this watch it is from 1945,
Oh wow.
and this is a Romer, and I forget all the details. So this is a watch I wear once a year, and I wear it on Veterans Day. So this one came with me to Germany because I was there for Veterans Day. It was
Right.
also with my buddy who was a combat veteran, so it kind of felt it was a little bit fitting. Now, again, this history is hard to verify. I can only base it on what the data I was able to find out there. But this was what I consider a watch of the greatest generation. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That time.
Hmm.
So this watch was not sold in the United States until early 50s. I'm
Okay.
not probably even made then. But where it was sold was in the PXs in Italy in 1945. Okay, and this is a 1945 watch.
Oh wow.
So at the same time that the gentleman that bought this, he could have chose a Rolex, right?
Mhm.
The Rolex watch would have been right next to it in the case in the PX. This watch was more expensive because they had a slightly better reputation, or whatever the case was. Frankly, there's a bunch of patent brevets or whatever in
Yeah.
the back that kind of make it kind of cool. But what I love about this watch, and what I love about the greatest generation, is how what was important to them was different, right? And I don't know if you can hear this thing as I wind it up. Can you hear that?
Oh yeah.
It's so crisp.
It is very crisp.
So this was, I believe this was the pride and joy of the man who owned it. I bought this 5 years ago or so
Okay.
at a Goodwill store, where people take their grandparents' stuff and just dump it and hope that somebody can get value. But what really kind of stuck out to me is, I hope you can see it. Do you see the way the case is shaped there?
Yeah.
That's a wear, right? And if
Right.
I put my hand on it, you can see that is a wear through the case by the guy that sat here and winded it every day. Right?
Oh wow. From winding it.
So I believe this watch must have sat on his wrist every day to be able to create that wear through in a case.
Oh
is
yeah.
just cool. Right? Again, it's a cheap watch. Doesn't mean a whole lot from a financial or whatever the hell the right term is.
Yeah. Still, that's really cool.
So I just kind of went from a level watch. It went with me on my trip to Europe, just from the perspective of, hey, bringing it home. And actually, the train that I took drove right by where the factory that this watch was made. So I took a picture of this essentially in front of the map of where it was.
Oh,
So
cool.
kind of, again, nothing fancy, just kind of.
No, it's the memories you make. It's what they It's the some watches just have some, there's stories and stuff. So
Right, exactly. Yeah.
that's what
And
makes them.
this was the watch that went with me for the whole trip. So
I love that
love
watch.
this watch. Yep. It was perfect for it. Hey, frankly, when I was in, well, it was one of the stores. I forget which one. It's like, all right, I don't like to buy a watch without at least first talking to my wife. And always the Tudor store, and I'll tell you that story next. But essentially, I was in there relatively early, so I was showing why I'm like, I don't know if I want to buy this watch without it for talking to my wife, and let me check and see what
Yeah,
time it is. Able to cook in the bed. It was kind of a funny conversation piece. But what I did see was that new burgundy Tudor Black Bay 41.
I love that watch.
I do too. And I don't know if anybody else had seen it in store, but I hadn't seen it, and I've been looking for it for a while.
Well, I went to the Tudor event at my AD because they just picked up Tudor, and I actually got to try it on finally. It didn't have a movement in it.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was so I tried on. I was really interested in the Jubilee or the 5-link version.
Yep.
And it is so nice. It's so good.
Really good. So I had the same, and it was offered to me on the Jubilee. Excuse me, on the Oyster Link.
Yeah.
Milan. And that's why I was like, I got to talk to my wife with it. But again, I hadn't seen it. He's like, 2 days ago, I had the Jubilee. It sold. I would have bought that watch if he had it on the Jubilee at that point. Because frankly, that would have been cheaper than I could buy it here. So I did. I sent a note to on the flight back. I sent a note to my local AD contact, and sure enough, he had one. He had one in that day, so he sent it aside. So I was able to try it on the Jubilee as a working, and I could have bought it, but at that point, my vacation home suffered some damage over the year, and
Yeah, absolutely.
And so
I was really impressed. I was really impressed with not only the watch itself, but in the band, the bracelet, but the fact that they thinned it. It's thinned out.
Perfect.
The coin edge. The coin edge is better. The crown is better. I like the lollipop seconds over the snowflake seconds.
Yeah,
there's so many little things about the watch that I was like, "Well, this is really nice."
Agreed completely. Yeah. And like I said, had I not been meeting with the builder on basically $40,000 and over budgets that I had to pay for, that watch would have went home with me on Thursday.
Thomas Burnett says he saw the Tudor Burgundy on the Jubilee at Watches and Wonders, and it was one of the standout pieces at the Tudor booth. I can believe it. It was just, I went to the Tudor event, and it was far and away my favorite. I just wanted to see an FXD because you can never find those on the store. I wanted to see the Opaline dial GMT, which was nice, and I wanted to see this watch. Those were the three I really wanted to, just get hands on and feel and stuff. And there's the Opaline GMT.
Yeah.
Beautiful watch, absolutely gorgeous, big chunky watch.
Completely agree. If they do this year to this watch, what they did to the Black Bay 41, there'll be lines at the door for that one.
And then they had the new black version of the FXD.
Yeah.
I didn't like it as much as I thought I would.
I didn't either, and I had high hopes for this watch because when Tudor signed up with with the cycling team, I was like, all right, they've got to make a cycling watch. And I think they made a
blue or a black and red maybe version of it that was only for the cycling team.
Exactly right. Yeah, and had they released that could be tempting.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you, the Velcro strap. There was so much of the black Velcro showing. It's not made for somebody with bigger wrists.
Big wrists. Yeah.
They told me that you can order a large strap for it, but it was weird, and I was actually telling earlier on the stream when I tried it on, because it was so small, it was kind of weird, and I was like fiddling with it. I almost lost it, and I said the thing was so light, I thought it was going to fly across the room. I kind of grabbed hold of it because it's really, you got a titanium watch with a NATO strap. It weighs nothing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Thomas says the Opaline dial GMT was another great piece of Tudor boats. It's a beautiful watch. The dial is amazing.
It's funny that opening dial. Just that's what's on the chrono. But you know what else it's on? Is the 1926.
Is it really?
Yeah, pull up the white and blue Opaline 1926. 1926 is an entry level watch. It's less than $2,000, right? Perspective, but it's not an in-house movement. It's one that I was like, I just love the look of the dial. I just can't bring myself to buy it because I know it will never spend any time on the wrist.
Right.
But again, that Opaline dial just kind of works with the blue hands if you can find it.
Yeah, there it is.
So, and if you look back into their catalog, you can see the inspiration for this waffle dial. I think it actually draws to I want to say an Explorer 5500. Just kind of it just kind of works.
It's kind of a classic looking watch.
Exactly, right. But again, it doesn't get wrist time, so I've never bothered to pick it up. But it just that blue and white just kind of works for me.
Yeah. No, I get it. No, I think Tudor is really so. I said Longines and Tudor have been doing a lot of little things to kind of fill that void behind, like that Omega left behind when they raised their prices.
Right. Agree completely. Yep. And what I used to love about Omega, I now love about Tudor.
Exactly.
I've been with my eyes to some more Longines stuff too, because there's some pretty cool things that they've been making. Like you said, that pretty impressive.
The new, I mean, I'm not crazy about the size because I like the 42, but that new 39 Legend Diver, with the dive certification, with the COSC certification, with the different loom, with the loom pivot on the second hands, the little changes they made to it.
Yep.
It's really nice. It's awesome. Really nice. It's a very classic look, very classy look.
Find this Tudor that Thomas is talking about. Let's see that.
Let's see. The Alini Red Bull. Yeah. You haven't seen that one?
It's not clicking with me yet.
Okay, so hold on. Let me let's go to Tudor's here, pull it up. So this is the Alini Red Bull Racing edition. It's under sport watches. There it is. So they do a chronograph and a 3-hander.
Oh, wow. What's the case? Is it a titanium case or is it a?
This one. Hold on. Is this one carbon, Thomas? I can't remember. I've never seen this. Is another one I've never seen or anything. Case is black carbon composite.
Oh wow! Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's I like the colors. I'm not crazy that it says Red Bull Racing on it.
Yeah.
I kind of like that bicompact chronograph on it though.
I do too. Yeah, with the red just is striking.
Just enough red to really make that thing pop. And the fact they left the
bezel
black.
Yeah. Right. Is this based on the Polygos 39 or the 42?
I think it's 42. Let's go back down to the case. 40. It's a 43.
Oh wow! Wow. Yeah. Thomas, how's that fit on the wrist for you? Do you have a good size wrist?
Carbon, yeah, you see carbon. Yeah, it's a good looking. I like the colorway on it. I wasn't crazy. I don't know if they have a picture in here that really shows it on this one. The only thing I really wasn't crazy. Let's try this picture. All right, you see up the top between 10 and 2, where it's hard to see in this picture, but it says Alini Red Bull Racing.
Yeah.
Wasn't crazy. Yeah, wasn't crazy about that on the rehunt, but I love the color of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was really smart looking.
Tubas makes some pretty cool watches nowadays. That's for sure.
Yeah, they do. They like I said, Longines and Tudor really filling that gap. We looked at this earlier before you came on. I was showing the guys this because I was just like, wow, look at this thing. Hold on. Let me find that article again. It had the here's an image. We can visit that. The good folks at Hodinky. So this is what they did with the Legend Diver. They put a tweener size because before it was either a 36 or a 42.
Oh wow.
But they loomed the Arabics on the inside now. They loom the minute hand and the triangle like they do the 300M. So those are, I think, blue and everything else is in green. They COSC certified it and they ISO diver certified it.
Oh wow.
And
game.
Yeah, really did nice. I thought they just, really did a nice job for, the little upgrades that I'm like, I wish I had those on mine, but I wish it was a 42. I like the 42 size. Yeah.
I will say this: you're rubbing off on me with this watch. Like, I've kind of grown to like it more and more each time I see it. The internal bezel as a diver, I just kind of think from the perspective of as a diver operating under the water.
For actual use. Yeah. But as far as the cool thing, it was. So I wore it. I think it was Friday. I wore it to work, and another guy was. He's, I get a lot of customers that they have a couple nice watches. They like watches, but they're not like freaks about them. But this guy was wearing a GMT, and he was like, he kept saying, what is that watch? And I took it off and showed it to him. And when I showed him how the bezel worked and he was just like, he just kept playing with it, putting it on his wrist. He goes, I might have to pick one of these up. I said, look, based on the Rolexes that you have, this will far and away be the cheapest watch you have in your collection.
Yep.
But it was Thomas. They did bump the price up on this. I think was it 3,200, Thomas? I think it went up $700 over the old one. But you get the ISO, you get the COSC, you get the new dial, the loom, you get the beads of rice, which I don't know. I like one of the things that I'm a big fan of this bracelet.
I love that too. The Milanese bracelet. I love that too.
And the straight
what I like about that. Yeah. What I like especially about that is the thickness of it is really,
it's really, it's substantial. Yeah. It's not like I had a Yema rally golf that had a Milanese bracelet on it that was like an eighth of the thickness of this watch,
Right. Yeah. And it just kind of feels like, all right, this is not, it's not.
Yeah. It's like nothing's there.
But at the same time, was it the profile with the Milanese?
Oh yeah,
thick like that, but the rest of the watch just doesn't work for me.
Right. I like the No Time to Die. It has a thick Milanese on it.
Yeah. This is the watch. Kind of works.
Yeah, and the Seamaster, the James Bond 60th has a stainless, more like this bracelet. But yeah, those are cool. Right. They're different. It makes it. But I like the straight link with it. It creates an image to the watch, like a visual to the watch that's really different. It's really striking with the polish and everything. It just Like I said, for the 7 months I didn't have it, I actually really missed it. So picking it up again was a good deal for me. Thomas says, I like that it's a no date version now. Yeah. So the original ones they came out with, I think it was 2007 when they originally relaunched it, and it didn't have a date. And a few years later, they put the date on, and then the bronze version with the green kind of fume dial on it, that didn't have a date. And I was like, why don't they just make all of these without a date?
Yeah. So who's the Pittsburgh get today?
They got Cleveland.
Oh, cool. Is that a 1 o'clock or 4?
I don't know. I mean, they're starting some rookie quarterback that runs a lot, so he could give us problems. I don't know. Their defense, Cleveland's defense. If you're looking at I think three of the four best defenses in the league this year are in the AFC North. With Baltimore, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh. And then maybe add San Francisco to that mix, especially picking up Chase Young.
Right.
So what are the Patriots going to do? There's all this talk about this is they're going to move on from Belichick after the year. Do you think that's true?
I don't know that I believe that yet. And I don't know that that's the right thing to do.
I don't either. I don't know what the answer is. I think taking the GM responsibilities away, maybe.
That's it's like taking the leader that's gotten you there. And granted, maybe Brady deserves more credit for it than Belichick. It's truly hard to say, and that's the cost that Belichick has paid by sticking around after Brady left. Is that it then became about who was more
successful on their own.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Well, but the thing you can't take away from Belichick is his defensive schemes.
Exactly right. Yeah, and if he didn't lose those guys this year, their defense would be right there.
Yeah.
One thing we know is that they do need a quarterback.
Yes.
They don't have the solution of that on the team. So, is it a draft pick that's going to solve for that? Not next year.
Mm-hmm.
Not is anybody that will be available in free agency that the Patriots would consider spending money for. So I think we're in for a couple of 3 hard years going ahead.
MJ, good to see you. Oh, always doing well. Always good to see you, sir. It's like there was a bunch of people say they're going to fire him in the bye week. I'm like, you don't fire Bill Belichick in the bye week.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe there's some pressure from the leadership to move on and let him do so gracefully. Maybe that happens. And he's just getting up there in age, but like you said, his defenses are still top notch.
Yeah, his schemes, his stuff is still top notch. It's a shame to see it go down like this, but I went through this with Chuck Noll.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Exactly right. Yep.
But it's weird. It's weird because my teams, if you will. So the Steelers in my lifetime have had 3 coaches.
Wow. Right.
Noel, Cowher, and Tomlin. And they're all 3 going to be in the Hall of Fame. 2 are in the Hall of Fame, one's going.
Yeah. And even then, when you look at quarterbacks, you don't have a big depth of quarterbacks. When you get 4 over the course of that time, and back to Terry Bradshaw.
You had some years. Yeah, you had the Bubby Brister years and the.
Oh yeah, that's right. Forget about those. Yeah.
You had a few years where it was a little convoluted, but then you had, and then I'm a Penn State grad, and I mean it was, it was Paterno, and then you had a couple years of O'Brien, and then James Franklin's been there 10 years. So like. For me, it's like coaching changes are weird. Yeah. It's hard to I see these teams that switch all the time. It's like, I don't know. I think there's something to consistency too.
Agreed. Yeah.
But I don't know what the Crafts are thinking, Is Jonathan more involved in the running of the team now?
I don't know. That's an interesting angle.
Yeah. If so, he's gonna want to put his spin on it, and his, you know what I mean? Like it's a weird thing. So
When they have great.
my high school football coach, he was also our basketball coach, and I wrote for the newspaper and did the yearbook. He was the sponsor for that. His name was Tom Donahoe.
Yeah.
And he left to take a job with Metro Index Scouting, and then a couple years later, they're talking about how he's the genius of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was the GM of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was like, wow, that was my high school football coach.
Really cool.
But I remember the reason I mentioned Jonathan was I remember the younger Rooney taking over, and he was a Cowher guy, and there was a bit of a power struggle between Cowher and Donahoe, you know, and then and he ended up going Cowher. So that's why I was curious, because you never know, you know, in the background what makes those decisions too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. We'll say this is a Patriots fan. No, I'm grateful for the years we had where they were so dumb. Yeah, I mean, I grew up with the Patriots were, you know, outside of Squish the Fish, they were really, you know, essentially middle of the road at best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, here, when I grew up in Western Massachusetts.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I moved here when I was 10. We always, I was a Steeler fan because my mother was from here. We vacationed here. I had been to Steeler games, but we, in my neighborhood, so we were Steeler fans because of my mom.
Yeah.
Most of my friends and their families were either Giants or Dolphins fans for some reason.
Really?
Lots of Giants and Dolphins fans. The Patriots were like, nobody really paid that much attention to them. It was weird. And I never really thought about it at the time, just because, you know, we love the Steelers, and we, you know, but you know, it was later on when I thought, wow, there weren't a lot of Patriot fans in my little circle back then. You know, like the Celtics were huge, the Red Sox were huge, the Bruins were.
Yeah.
I swore off the Bruins when they let Bobby Orr go and traded Phil Esposito. Yeah. But it was weird that you know, the football aspect of it wasn't his thing. And I think it was just because they really weren't success. They had almost no success. I mean,
and
their claim was it John? You know, their claim to fame was really John Hanna. You know?
Exactly right. Yeah.
You know? The
guard.
Yeah, the guard. They traded. Who was the tight end they traded to Oakland? It was a good tight end.
I know who you're talking
about. Russ Francis.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they traded him to Oakland, and they, you know, I mean, it was just like weird. You know, they just seemed to be not terrible, but really middling.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, it used to frustrate my dad because so infrequently would they sell out that oftentimes they wouldn't even be on.
Black out the games.
Exactly. It was the worst because, you know, you look forward to Sunday sitting down and watching that game, and you couldn't watch it.
Right. Yeah. And that's probably, now that you mention it, it's probably one of the reasons that, because the Dolphins were hot then. They were coming off their Super Bowls and their perfect season. And the Giants, like, I don't know. I don't understand the Giants part, but maybe they just showed them on TV more. But probably you didn't get to watch the games. So how are you going to, you know, develop your fan base?
Right. Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When we moved here, you could go to the Civic Arena for a Penguin game and pretty much sit wherever you wanted. There was nobody going until Mario. You know, until Mario came and cable came and they were showing the games, and here's this guy that's amazing, and you know, and all of a sudden, you know, you build your but how are you going to build it when you're blacking out the games?
Right. Yep. And didn't they almost go completely bankrupt, or did they go bankrupt?
Oh, the Penguins. Oh, they've been they've been troubled two or three times. They were locked out by the IRS at one point, and then the guy who what the heck was his name? DeBarlo bought him.
Oh yeah, yep.
And saved them the first time, and then they were in real trouble again. Then Mario ended up getting basically ownership of the team because they owed him so much money. So that was part of the settlement.
Exactly. Yep.
And then he actually came back to play
because
with Yager for a couple years to boost that up.
Yeah.
And he played part of Crosby's first year because there was a lockout. What should have been his first year. And he played part of Crosby's first year, and then he went to the Olympics because the Canadians were trying to win gold, and he won gold as on the Olympic team. But they were in big trouble a couple times, and then they built the new stadiums for the Pirates and the Steelers, and the Penguins were trying to get their stadium deal done. It wasn't getting done. They almost moved to Kansas City.
Oh wow!
Yeah. It was last second they came up with a deal and made everybody happy. So, but it's good stuff.
So I do want to, as we kind of kick off time, just do want to say thank you for having this format on a Sunday morning.
I appreciate that. I do it. Like I said, I just do it because I enjoy talking to you guys. You know what I mean? And chatting about watches. I feel bad today. I didn't, when we scheduled it, I forgot about the Dubai thing. And so I figured because he's running again. I don't know if you know that he's live again. But
is it good? Oh, yeah, it's football time.
But he's had really good content. You know what I mean?
Well, so exactly. This is what I tune in for. And between this, some of those amazing unboxings that the community do. This is kind of. I love, and I try to support it. Every time he does, you know what I mean? Because it's truly, as a watch nerd, this is as good as it gets.
Absolutely, So I always just treat this show as, hey, we'll just hang out and talk watches. If there's 4 people here, so be it. But it's funny at the end of the week. There's always between 300 and 500 people have come and watched the show. You know what I mean? So I'm like, well, they got other stuff to do and other things going on, but they come back and watch. So that's why I put the ticker thing like, there, go, please watch Tim, come back and watch us,
Yeah, right. This will be here. Exactly. Yeah.
Because it's hard to go back into that long of a live stream. A Gonzo and watch everything because they're so they some of those are 7-8 hours. You're like, oh yeah. So, but I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
Coming on, sharing your watch.
This was fun for me. Yeah, it's nice. Again, it's nice to have a again looking at the watches that we saw last night.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, I now know what, if I ever get a Vachon, I now know which one it's going to be.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, isn't it?
Exactly. And I did this.
That FP Journe. I'm not the biggest FP Journe fan, but that was a nice.
It's nice, but for a consumer like me, it's unobtainable. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm never buying it. Yeah.
Right. I'd rather have 5 Rolexes in my box than one of those.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just what I enjoy about a watch is different. But by all means, if that's within the wheelhouse, it's a stunning watch.
It is, yeah. Well, he moved quite a few watches to get that, so
In my case, I'll be moving most of my collection, and even then, I don't know that I'd be at a cash position.
Yeah, well, you guys know I say it all the time. I'm a 10 grand and under guy, and that's just where I like, and that's a lot of money for a watch. My friends think I'm insane.
I know my wife thinks I'm insane. I don't tell my friends what I pay for them.
Oh, I have friends who look them up. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
the internet's bad. You know, back in the day when I had my Rolex and stuff, they knew they were nice, but now, like I'll get my friend Susan sent me a note. She goes, "That Zenith is a $9,000 watch. Are you insane?" Yeah.
Hey, just curious, if we stay on here with me having the game on and in the screen, does that run risk of your stream getting taken down? Because I can shut that off. So,
Oh no, I think you're good. It's small enough. I don't think they can really discern it. But I was gonna go by probably about another 15 minutes and then shut her down anyway. But yeah, the whole I don't know if it matters. See, I'm not sure what the rules are for my channel anyway, since there's non-monetized. So I'm not sure what you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know that makes a difference or not. I know if you're making money on your channel and you're doing that, they'll definitely come get shut you down and do whatever. But I don't know with the fact that there's
just to avoid it, I'll just shut the camera off just so it doesn't create no reason to get your content taken down. I guess jabbing on. But I kind of I'm gonna wrap up myself and sit down and watch the game for a little bit. It looks like I get to watch this. But I just want to say again, thank you for providing a forum, and I hope that I added some value today. I tried
absolutely you did. Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
You know what I mean?
That was not only cool to see the watches, but to get the little background. And I'll tell you the biggest thing I took out of it, because it never dawned on me that this would have been an issue for it, was when you talked about Nixon taking us off the gold standard and what that did to the price of the watches.
Right. And that it far and away had bigger impacts than anything else to industry. You know what I mean? The quartz crisis always gets blamed and quartz takes a beating. But that was small potatoes by comparison. It was really even the fact that the Japanese quartz watches were so cheap was because they were tied to the dollar, where the Swiss franc wasn't.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that, study that up a little bit. So, Harry, thank you so much for your talk and for sharing your collection. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun for me too. You know what I mean? I like to come on every once in a while just to add value where, right? Because
it was great. You're always welcome. You know?
Yeah, cool. Awesome, buddy. Appreciate it. And,
all right, man.
You have a good one, and we'll stay in touch.
All right. Thanks, Harry.
But I just need to figure out how to leave.
There you go. You got it. So how great was that, guys? In all seriousness, we got a little education on the Heuer brand. We got to see some cool watches, some stuff I've never seen before. We got a theory on what happened aside from the rise in sales of quartz watches as to what led to the Swiss watch crisis in general. I mean, that was a really entertaining and educational piece. So thank you so much, Harry, for sharing that. Thank you guys for, you guys who are here live. Thank you. But seriously, Tim's live again. And I've said from the very beginning of the stream, that he's doing probably what I consider the best work he's done. Since I've been watching him, I mean, he's been amazing. He's talked to some amazing people and had really cool not only watches but people and just stuff, just so much going on. It was good to look at the new Longines reissue, the new Defy Skyline Night Surfer, and of course all the Heuers and tags. So yeah, Thomas says, great to have you on today, Harry. Thank you for your knowledgeable insight into the history of the Heuer brand and sharing your passion for the brand. Great show. Respect. Yes. So we're going to go a couple more minutes here. Looks like Cleveland's punting to Pittsburgh. Flip that on for a second. Looks like they're going to be, inside the 5, maybe down around the 3. Good punt for Cleveland. We'll see what Pittsburgh can do against the vaunted Browns defense. Should be an interesting game. Hopefully, Harry's Patriots find a way to do something. But overall, thank you guys. You guys have no idea how much I appreciate you having me on, your kind words and your stuff. I know I missed a lot when Harry was going through some of the stuff. There were some things in the chat that I missed. We'll go highlight a couple of those. Dear Artifact, one of my favorite people in the community. Good dude. He says, Lucha, one of the kings of the community. I don't know about that, but one of the friendliest people in the watch world. I hope you're well, my friend. I hope you're well too. You and your dad. I'm pulling for your dad on that Le Mans. After seeing those pictures that Timmy had of it live. Oh, that's just a good looking piece. Just a good looking piece. Apparently, David H picked up a new watch. Evan was in for a while. We always appreciate Evan. David H picked up the yellow gold Langa 1 current production. Congratulations. David, if you want to share it, or share it on the next episode or something, let me know. Or you can even, if you don't want to come on, you can send a picture over to Luchabetic Mark Talks Watches Instagram and we can pull it up. We'd love to see that. The original OC. He popped in during halftime of Tim's streams. He says, always great Sunday watch talk here on Luchabetic Mark Talks Watches. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Can't wait to meet you in December. That'll be cool. Jonathan Coyle Higgins was in. I'm sorry, Jonathan. I didn't. Harry was in the middle of his conversation. I know you were trying to show us a watch, so I didn't get a chance to pull you up. But we're here every week. I may do a Thanksgiving morning show. So normally, what happens on Thanksgiving is I do all my prep, get everything going, and then I just kind of kick back and hang out for a little bit while we're waiting. So. I may do a maybe 2-hour Thanksgiving show on Thursday. That would be fun. Awesome Pawon was in. Always good to see him. Yeah. So I appreciate you guys have made it over here for a second or two. But again, the crown jewel, if you will, of the day is Timmy's streams. And I've made no bones about that from the beginning. And hopefully you guys have gotten over there to see some of it because it's really been kind of impressive to watch him do what he's been doing. So very cool stuff. And on that note, we're gonna hit the luchador signal. Volume for some reason. That's all right. You get the idea. I'll just say it. Lucha, 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 lucha. How's that? I appreciate you guys for coming over. And everybody watching later, please, please, please smash that like button and upvote the stream. We're non-monetized, but that doesn't mean we want to be non-viewer. That just helps us out in the algorithm. So if you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button, it does help, and it is very much appreciated. And there. Go back to breakfast, I think. Thank you guys. If I don't see you on Thanksgiving, have a happy Thanksgiving for those in America. And like I said, I'll do probably a 10 a.m. stream on Thanksgiving just to say thank you for you guys coming around. I appreciate it. You guys are the best.